The human ship arrived at the edge of the Varelian home system without ceremony. It did not shine like the royal vessels around it. Its metal was dark, worn, marked by old repairs and quiet strength. Many alien observers looked at it with mild interest, then quickly looked away. They expected nothing impressive from humans. Ethan Hale stood alone inside the diplomatic chamber of the ship. He wore a simple uniform, no medals on display. His posture was calm, but his mind was sharp. He had trained for combat, survival, and negotiation, yet nothing had prepared him for this mission. He was not here as a conqueror. He was here as a representative of humanity, standing before an empire older than human civilization itself. When the docking clamps locked, the silence felt heavy. Moments later, the doors opened and royal guards entered. They were tall, silver-skinned beings with glowing eyes and armor grown rather than forged. Their weapons hummed softly, alive in their hands. "The Queen summons you," one guard said in a voice that echoed unnaturally. Ethan nodded and followed them. The palace of the Varelian Queen was carved into a living mountain. The walls shimmered with soft light, reacting to movement and sound. Alien nobles lined the corridors, whispering as the human passed. Some stared with curiosity, others looked with open judgment. They all knew why he was here. At the end of the hall stood the throne chamber. The doors opened slowly, revealing a vast space filled with floating lights and banners that moved as if breathing. At the center sat the Queen. She was enormous, even by alien standards. Her form was graceful and terrifying at the same time. Her crown floated above her head, glowing with ancient power. Her eyes were deep and knowing, as if they had watched stars be born and die. Beside her stood Princess Salith. Ethan felt the room change the moment he saw her. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her beauty was not sharp or aggressive. It was soft, overwhelming, and almost painful. Her skin glowed faintly, like moonlight on water. Her eyes held endless colors, shifting slowly. Her presence pulled attention, without effort. The court fell silent. Many aliens bowed lower, some trembling. A few could not even look directly at her. Ethan understood immediately why entire civilizations had offered tribute just to see her once. But he also noticed something else. Salith stood perfectly still. Her hands were folded exactly the same way as statues lining the hall. Her expression was calm, almost empty. Her eyes, though beautiful, did not wander. They did not explore the room. They did not choose anything. She looked like someone waiting. Ethan stepped forward and bowed respectfully to the Queen. "Human envoy," the Queen said, her voice filling the chamber without effort. "You stand before the ruler of the Varelian Empire." "I am honored," Ethan replied. His voice was steady. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Her gaze was heavy, searching. She had spoken to thousands of species. She could sense fear, desire, ambition. Yet from this human, she sensed something unfamiliar. "You know why you are here," she said. "Yes," Ethan answered. A quiet ripple moved through the court. "Then speak," the Queen commanded. "Do you accept the bond?" Every eye in the chamber locked onto Ethan. This moment had already been decided in the minds of everyone present. No being had ever refused such an offer. To join with the Queen's daughter meant power, safety, and honor beyond measure. Ethan looked at Salith again. For a brief second, her eyes met his. There was no command in them, no expectation, only silence. He took a breath. "I cannot accept," he said. The words fell into the chamber like a shockwave. Gasps echoed. Some nobles hissed in disbelief. Others leaned forward, stunned. A few guards tightened their grip on their weapons. The Queen did not move, but the air grew heavier. "You refuse?" she asked slowly. "Yes," Ethan said. The Queen's eyes narrowed. No being has ever refused my daughter." "I know," Ethan replied. Sally's fingers twitched slightly. It was the first movement she had made. The queen rose from her throne. The lights dimmed as her presence expanded.
"Explain yourself, human," she said. "Do you find her unworthy?" "No," Ethan said immediately.
"Do you insult her beauty?" "No." "Do you doubt her power?" "No." The queen stepped closer. Each movement sent vibrations through the floor. "Then why?" The silence stretched. Ethan felt the weight of the Empire pressing down on him. He knew one wrong word could end not only his life, but humanity's future. Yet he also knew that silence would be a greater betrayal. He spoke carefully. "I believe your daughter has never been given a choice." A murmur spread through the court. The queen paused. "She has been given everything." "Yes," Ethan said. "Everything except herself." Sayla's eyes widened slightly. Ethan continued, his voice calm but firm. "Where I come from, love is not a command. It is not a reward. It is not something owed because of beauty or power." The queen's gaze sharpened. "You imply that my daughter is unloved?" "No," Ethan said. "I believe she is desired by many, but desired is not the same as known." The queen was silent. Ethan turned slightly toward Salith, careful not to overstep. "Every being in this room sees her as something to gain, a symbol, a treasure, a bond." He looked back at the queen. "I will not be another chain." The chamber was completely still now. Scylla felt something stir in her chest. She had heard praise her entire life. Songs, vows, promises, but never this. Never refusal, never protection through distance. The queen's voice lowered. "You stand in my court and deny destiny." "I stand in your court and respect your daughter," Ethan replied. The queen studied Salith. For the first time, she noticed how her daughter's posture leaned forward slightly, how her eyes no longer looked empty. "What do you see when you look at her?" the queen asked. Ethan answered honestly.
"I see someone who has never been allowed to be ordinary." The words struck deeper than any insult.
Salith's breath caught. The queen turned back to Ethan. "Then speak plainly, human. Why will you not love my daughter?" Ethan did not hesitate. "Because she is too beautiful," he said. The court erupted in shock. The queen stared at him, disbelief flashing across her ancient features.
"You reject her for that?" "No," Ethan said softly. "I refuse to love her wrongly." The queen's power flared, lights pulsing wildly.
"Explain." "Her beauty has made everyone want to own her," Ethan said. "To protect her, control her, decide her future for her. If I accepted this bond, I would become one more person choosing for her." He looked at Salith again.
"I won't do that." Salith felt tears rise, though she did not yet understand why. No one had ever spoken about her as if she were fragile in this way.
No one had ever protected her by stepping away. The queen remained silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "You may leave." Gasps echoed again. Ethan bowed deeply. "Thank you for hearing me." As he turned to go, Salith took one step forward without thinking. The movement was small, but it echoed louder than thunder. The queen noticed. So did everyone else. Ethan paused, but did not turn. Salith watched him walk away, her heart racing with something new. Confusion, pain, and for the first time in her life, curiosity. She realized something frightening and beautiful at the same time. The human had not chosen her, and somehow, that was the first choice that felt real. The silence left behind by the human's departure did not fade quickly. It clung to the throne chamber like a living thing. Nobles stood frozen, unsure whether to speak or flee. Guards remained tense, waiting for a command that did not come. Princess Saleth stood where she was, one foot slightly forward, her breath shallow. She did not realize she had moved until she felt the queen's gaze settle on her. "Daughter," the queen said quietly. Saleth straightened at once, her training returning like a shield. She folded her hands again, the way she had been taught. Perfect. Still. Silent. The queen watched her for a long moment. She had ruled for centuries. She had seen rebellion, betrayal, and devotion. Yet something about this moment felt unfamiliar. "You may withdraw," the queen told the court. The nobles bowed quickly and left in clusters, whispering in low tones. The guards followed, sealing the chamber doors behind them. Soon, only the queen and her daughter remained, surrounded by soft light and echoing space. The queen descended from the throne and walked towards Saleth. Her movements were slower now, measured. "Look at me," she said. Saleth raised her eyes. "What did the human's words stir in you?" the queen asked. Saleth hesitated. She had answered questions her whole life, but this one felt dangerous. Her voice came out carefully. "I do not know, mother." The queen studied her face. "You have never hesitated before." Saleth's fingers tightened. "I have never been asked this question before." That made the queen pause. Across the palace, Ethan Hale was escorted back to his ship under heavy guard. No one spoke to him. The air felt charged, but not hostile. He walked calmly, though his thoughts were loud. He wondered if he had gone too far. He wondered if he had gone far enough. When he reached the docking bay, the guard stopped. "You are to remain," one said. "The queen has not dismissed you from the planet." Ethan nodded, understood. He was taken to a guest chamber, comfortable but clearly monitored. Alone at last, he exhaled slowly and sat down. He thought of Saleth's eyes when he spoke. Not anger, not rejection. Something else, something fragile. Back in the throne chamber, the queen turned away from her daughter and gazed at the vast mural of stars lining the wall. It depicted the expansion of the empire, conquest wrapped in beauty and order. "She is admired across the galaxy," the queen said. Desired, protected, feared, envied. "Yes," Saleth replied. "And yet," the queen continued, "a human looked at you and refused." Saleth swallowed. "Yes. Does that wound you?" Saleth closed her eyes. Images flooded her mind. Alien princes kneeling, poets singing, generals offering fleets. None of them had ever asked what she wanted. However, none of them had ever said no. "I think," Saleth said slowly, "it frightens me." "Why?" "Because it felt honest." Saleth opened her eyes. Her voice trembled but did not break. "Everyone else sees what I am supposed to be. He saw what I am not allowed to be." The queen said nothing. Saleth gathered courage. She did not know she possessed. "Mother, do you believe I belong to the Empire?" The question struck harder than any rebellion. "You are the Empire's heart," the queen answered. Saleth nodded. "That is not what I asked." The queen stared at her daughter, truly seeing her for the first time in centuries. Not as a symbol, not as a future bond, but as a being standing on the edge of something unknown. That night, the palace did not sleep. Across the capital city, rumors spread like wildfire. The human had insulted the princess. The human had rejected perfection. The human was dangerous. In darker corners, other whispers grew. The human had spoken truth. The human had seen weakness. The human had planted doubt. By morning, the council demanded action. Ethan was summoned again, this time to a smaller chamber. The queen sat at the center, surrounded by high nobles and military leaders. Saleth stood behind her throne, quiet but watching. "Human," the Queen said. You will answer further questions. I will, Ethan replied. A noble stepped forward. You claim to respect our princess, yet you humiliated her before the court.
I did not, Ethan said. I refused ownership. Another hissed.
You imply our traditions are cruel?
I imply that choice matters, Ethan answered. Murmurs rose. The Queen raised her hand, silencing them.
You said her beauty was a burden. Yes, and yet you are human, the Queen said.
Your species praises beauty endlessly. We do, Ethan agreed. But we also learn what happens when beauty becomes a cage. Salith listened closely.
The Queen leaned forward. Then tell us, human.
What would you have done differently had you been born Varelian? Ethan considered the question carefully. I would have asked her who she wants to be before deciding what she should mean to others. The chamber fell quiet. Salith's heart pounded. The Queen dismissed the council with a sharp gesture. Leave us! Reluctantly they obeyed. Only Ethan, the Queen, and Salith remained. The Queen stood. Come forward, daughter. Salith stepped beside Ethan, close enough to sense his presence. He did not look at her. He kept his gaze respectful, neutral.
Speak to him, the Queen said. Salith hesitated.
Her voice felt strange, unused. Why did you not look afraid of me? Ethan met her eyes at last. Because fear would have made me dishonest.
You could have gained everything, she said softly. Why risk so much? Because I saw someone standing alone in a crowded room, Ethan replied.
Salith felt her throat tighten. The Queen watched them carefully. And if she had chosen you, Ethan answered without hesitation. Then I would have listened first. The Queen turned to her daughter. What do you feel? Salith searched herself. The answer frightened her. I feel awake. The Queen closed her eyes. For the first time in her long reign, doubt crept into her certainty. That evening, Salith stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Lights shimmered like stars beneath her feet. Ethan stood a respectful distance away, escorted but not restrained.
I have never walked here alone, Salith said. Ethan nodded.
First times matter. She looked at him. Do humans fear being alone? Yes, Ethan said, but we fear never being ourselves even more. Salith considered that. In the distance, alarms suddenly sounded. Red lights flashed across the city. Ethan tensed. What is that? Salith's eyes widened. Unauthorized fleet signatures. From the shadows of space, unfamiliar ships emerged. Not Varelian. Not human. A rival power had been watching. They came for me, Salith whispered. Ethan stepped forward instinctively, placing himself between her and the sky. For you, he corrected. Or for what you represent. The palace shook as defenses activated. The Queen's voice echoed through the city, commanding calm and readiness. Salith looked at Ethan, fear and resolve mixing inside her. What happens now? She asked. Ethan met her gaze, steady and sure. Now, he said, you get to choose how the story continues. And for the first time, the princess did not wait for permission. The alarms did not stop. They grew louder, deeper, shaking the air and the hearts of everyone in the palace. Red light washed over the city, turning beauty into warning. Princess Salith stood frozen for only a second. Then she moved. Her voice was no longer soft. It was clear and sharp. Ethan looked at her with quiet surprise. You are right. Across the sky, the unknown fleet spread out like dark wings. Their ships were jagged, built for war, not ceremony. Varelian defense platforms powered up, glowing as they aligned. The Queen's command echoed again, calm but strong. All citizens remain sheltered. Defense forces engage. Protect the princess at all costs. At once, guards rushed onto the balcony. We must take her radiance inside, one said urgently. Salif turned toward them. For the first time in her life, she did not immediately obey.
No, she said. The guards hesitated.
No one had ever heard that word from her before. Ethan did not speak. He watched. They are attacking because of me, Salif continued. Hiding me will not end this. It is not your decision, a guard insisted. Salif looked at the city below, then at the burning sky. Her hands trembled, but she clenched them into fists. It is, she said quietly. The guards looked to Ethan as if expecting him to control her. He did not. She's right, Ethan said. Symbols don't survive by hiding. The guards stiffened. One activated his communicator. Moments later, the Queen's voice came through, cold and commanding. Bring my daughter inside now. Saylet touched the communicator herself! Mother, she said. The Queen paused. Speak.
I will not be hidden, Sayla said.
Not this time. Silence followed. Then the Queen replied, her voice lower. You risk everything. Yes, Salith answered. But for the first time, it will be my choice. The connection ended. The guards stood uncertainly. Then, slowly, they stepped back. In the sky, the first shots were fired. Energy beams crossed the darkness. The palace shook as distant explosions bloomed. Ethan's training took over. We need shelter with visibility, he said. Somewhere you can see the battlefield, not be buried under it. Salith nodded. The command spire. They moved quickly through the palace halls. Servants fled past them. Soldiers ran toward battle. No one questioned them. Inside the command spire, massive transparent panels showed the space above the planet. The Varelian fleet was powerful, but the enemy ships were aggressive, reckless. They did not fear loss. They don't want territory, Ethan said. They want you. Salith's chest tightened. Why? Ethan answered honestly. Because you're not just beautiful. You're valuable, and they think value means ownership. Saila swallowed. Then they are wrong. A sudden explosion tore through one of the defense platforms. The room shook violently. Consoles sparked. A commander shouted, "They're breaking through the outer ring!" The Queen entered the spire moments later, surrounded by elite guards. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes burned. She looked at Salith.
You disobeyed me. Yes, Salith said.
The Queen's gaze shifted to Ethan. And you encouraged her. No, Ethan replied. I respected her. The Queen did not respond. She turned to the battle display. They are sending boarding units, a commander said, targeting the palace. The Queen's jaw tightened. They will not take my daughter. Salith stepped forward. Mother. They will keep coming as long as I am only a prize. The Queen looked at her sharply. Salith continued, her voice shaking but strong. Let me speak. To whom? The Queen asked. To them, Salith said. To the galaxy. The Queen hesitated. That hesitation changed everything. Ethan saw it.
The commander saw it. You want to broadcast? The Queen said.
Yes, they will exploit it. Or they will hear me, Salith replied. The Queen studied her daughter, not the princess, not the symbol, the being who stood before her. Very well, the Queen said, at last. One message. The broadcast went live across open channels. Saleth stood before the recording crystal. Her image spread into space, clear and unfiltered. "I am Saleth of the Varelian Empire," she said. "You came to claim me." Her hand stopped shaking. "I am not an object. I am not a reward. I am not a bond to be taken." Behind her, explosions lit the sky. "You believe my beauty gives you the right to own me," she continued. "You are wrong. I belong to myself." The enemy fleet did not stop. But something changed. "They're hesitating," a commander said. Ethan watched the enemy ships shift formation, uncertain. Saleth's voice remained steady. "Any who approach me as a prize will be destroyed. Any who approach me as an equal may speak." The transmission ended. The queen stared at her daughter, stunned. The enemy fleet responded not with words, but with violence. Boarding pods launched toward the palace.
"They didn't listen," Saleth whispered. Ethan stepped forward.
"Some people never do." The pods slammed into the palace walls. Explosions rocked the spire. Smoke filled the air. "Protect the queen!" guards shouted. Chaos erupted. Through the smoke, armored figures poured in. Not Varelian. Not human. Their weapons crackled with energy. Ethan moved without thinking. He grabbed a fallen weapon and took position in front of Saleth. "This isn't your fight," Saleth said urgently. "It is now," Ethan replied. The attackers advanced. Ethan fired, precise and controlled. He did not fight with rage. He fought with purpose. Each movement was calculated, efficient. Saleth watched, stunned. He was not the strongest being in the room. He was not the fastest. But he did not hesitate. He did not retreat. The queen saw it too. A blast knocked Ethan back. He hit the floor hard, pain exploding through his side. Blood stained his uniform. "Ethan!" Saleth cried. Before guards could stop her, Saleth ran to him. She knelt beside him, hands glowing faintly as her energy reacted to stress. "I told you not to choose for me," she said, tears forming.
Why are you doing this? Ethan looked up at her, breathing hard. Because this time, he said, you chose to stand. Another attacker raised his weapon.
The queen herself unleashed her power. Energy tore through the invader, reducing him to nothing. The remaining attackers retreated as Varelian forces overwhelmed them. Silence returned slowly, broken only by distant alarms. Medics rushed to Ethan. Saleth held his hand until they arrived. The queen stood over them, her expression unreadable. "You bleed for my daughter," the queen said.
"Yes," Ethan replied weakly. "Not for power."
"Not for bond. No," Ethan said. "For choice." The queen looked at Saleth, who had not let go of Ethan's hand. In that moment, the queen understood something she had ruled for centuries without knowing. Humanity's strength was not their weapons. It was their refusal to own what they loved, and the galaxy had just seen it. The palace did not celebrate the victory. Fire still burned in the upper districts. Emergency lights flickered across the city. The enemy fleet had been pushed back, but not destroyed. They retreated into the dark, watching, waiting. Princess Saleth stood outside the medical chamber, her hands clasped tightly. Inside, healers worked on Ethan Hale. Alien technology hummed softly as it sealed torn flesh and stabilized damaged organs. His blood, red and unfamiliar, had stained the polished floor before it was cleaned away. Saleth could still see it in her mind. The queen approached quietly. Her guards stayed back. For once, she wished to be alone with her daughter.
"He will live," the queen said. Saleth nodded, though her eyes were wet.
"I know. You have not left this place since the battle," the queen observed. Seilith did not answer immediately. When he fell, she said slowly, I felt something break inside me. Not fear, not panic, certainty. The queen watched her closely. Certainly of what? That I would not step back again, Seilith said. Not ever. The queen turned away, gazing down the long corridor. That certainty will cost you. Yes, Seilith said, but it will also save me. Inside the chamber, Ethan drifted in and out of awareness. Pain came and went like waves. He remembered flashes of light, Seilith's voice, the queen's power tearing the air apart. When he finally opened his eyes fully, the room was quiet. Seilith was sitting beside him. She noticed at once.
You're awake. He tried to smile and failed. I was hoping for a less dramatic recovery. She laughed softly, then quickly covered her mouth, as if afraid the sound might disappear.
You almost died. I know, Ethan said. I'm sorry. No, Seilith replied firmly. Do not apologize. He looked at her, really looked. She was still beautiful, impossibly so, but now there was something else layered over it. Resolve, fire. You changed everything, she said. Ethan shook his head slightly. You did. Before she could respond, the queen entered the chamber. The air shifted instantly. Ethan struggled to sit up, but Seilith gently pushed him back down. Do not, she said. You are injured. The queen observed this exchange silently. Human, the queen said. You disobeyed orders, interfered in royal matters, and spilled blood on my palace floor. Ethan met her gaze. Yes. And yet, the queen continued, you stood when others would have fled. Yes. The queen paused. This confuses my people. Ethan exhaled slowly. It usually does. The queen almost smiled. Almost. You will recover here, she said.
Under my protection. Seilith looked at her mother in surprise. Do not misunderstand, the queen added.
This is not mercy. It is observation. Days passed.
Ethan healed faster than expected, though weakness lingered. During that time, Seilith visited often. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they sat in silence, watching the city rebuild through wide windows. Outside the palace, the empire shifted. Nobles argued openly for the first time in generations. Some demanded that Seilith be hidden again, sealed away, protected at all costs. Others spoke of her broadcast, of the way enemy ships had hesitated. They saw her as a voice, one noble said, not just a prize. That terrified them. The queen listened to every argument and spoke little. One evening, she summoned Seilith alone. You have become dangerous, the queen said. Seilith stood tall. I have become visible. You have inspired unrest. I have inspired thought, Seilith replied. The queen studied her. If you continue this path, you will no longer be protected by tradition. I do not want tradition, Seilith said. I want truth. The queen closed her eyes. Memories surfaced. Her own youth, her own silencing. Then you will face what I once avoided, the queen said. The galaxy will test you. Let it, Seilith answered. The queen made her decision that night. The next day, Ethan was escorted to the Central Council chamber. He walked with a slight limp, but held himself steady. The chamber was full. The queen sat on her throne. Silas stood beside her, not behind. Human Ethan Hale, the queen announced. You have altered the course of this empire. Murmurs rippled. You will answer one question before this council, the queen continued. Why did you risk your life for my daughter, knowing you would gain nothing? Ethan looked at Seilith. She met his gaze, unafraid. Because, Ethan said, some things matter more than reward. Silence followed. The Queen nodded slowly. Then hear my decree. The entire court leaned forward. My daughter will no longer be offered as a bond, the Queen declared. No alliance will be forged through her existence.
Gasps echoed through the chamber.
She will choose her own path, the Queen continued, as will any who follow her. Nobles shouted. Some protested. Others looked stunned. Salif did not move. Her heart raced, but her face remained calm. The Queen raised her hand.
Those who oppose this may leave my service. Several did. That night the palace felt lighter.
Salif walked the halls freely. No guards flanked her. For the first time, she chose where to go. She found Ethan on a balcony.
They're afraid, she said.
They should be, Ethan replied gently. Change always scares empires. She leaned on the railing beside him. I don't know what comes next. That's okay, he said. Neither do we. She looked at him. You said you wouldn't choose for me.
I meant it, Ethan said.
Then listen, she said softly. I choose to walk this path.
Not as a symbol. Not as a prize. As yourself, Ethan finished. Yes. Far above them, stars burned cold and distant. In the darkness beyond the system, enemy fleets watched. They had seen the broadcast. They had seen the human bleed. They understood now. The princess was no longer protected by beauty alone. She was protected by belief. And belief, they knew, was far more dangerous. The galaxy was shifting, and it would not stop. The empire had changed. The city below the palace shone with the soft glow of repair and recovery. But there was a new energy in the air, something unspoken yet undeniable. The people had seen a human stand for truth and a princess step forward as herself. The world felt smaller, and at the same time, infinite. Princess Salif walked through the grand halls of the palace with ease. For the first time in her life, the paths were hers to choose. No guards dictated her steps. No nobles whispered commands behind her back. She moved with the confidence of someone who had finally been seen, not as an object, but as a being capable of thought, choice, and action. Ethan Hale, now fully recovered, walked beside her. His uniform had been replaced by simple clothes suitable for life in the palace, yet his presence carried weight beyond his attire. He did not command with rank, nor did he flaunt strength. His authority came from something older, something humans called integrity. The Queen observed quietly from her throne. She had ruled centuries with certainty, yet this human had shown her a truth she had overlooked in her long reign. Love, respect, and loyalty were not demanded. They were earned, and sometimes earned simply by allowing freedom.
You have done more than survive, the Queen said quietly, her eyes on her daughter.
You have reshaped this empire. Sylith turned to her mother, her eyes bright. No, Mother, I only walked the path I should have been allowed to take from the beginning, but I could not have done it without him. She gestured to Ethan. The Queen's gaze fell on Ethan. You were human. You risked your life, your future, and the stability of this empire for one being. And you did so without seeking reward.
Ethan shook his head.
I didn't do it for reward. I did it because she deserved a choice. Because she is alive. And alive means more than being admired or desired. It means being free. The Queen nodded slowly. Perhaps humans are wiser than I ever allowed myself to believe.
Selah stepped forward. Mother, I wish to leave the palace for a time.
To learn, to see the galaxy, and to decide who I am outside these walls. The Queen's silence was long and heavy. In her mind, the Empire had been shaped by alliances, appearances, and control. But as she looked at her daughter, she realized the greatest power had always been choice. Then go, she said, and may the stars guide you as they did your ancestors. Salith felt a rush of emotion, relief mingled with excitement. She turned to Ethan. Will you accompany me? Ethan hesitated for only a moment. I can, he said.
But only if you wish it. The choice is yours as always.
She smiled. It always has been. Come with me, not as my protector, but as my equal. They left the palace together, walking through streets that had been rebuilt in record time. Citizens of the Empire paused to watch, some in awe, some in curiosity. The sight of the princess walking freely beside a human envoy stirred something unexpected. Hope. As they approached the spaceport, Ethan turned to Salith. Do you know where you want to go first? Salith shook her head, laughing softly.
No, but I want to see what the galaxy looks like without someone else's expectations shaping my path.
The Queen had arranged a small fleet for them, enough to travel safely, but not enough to overwhelm. Salith gazed at the ships with wonder.
I have seen them only from the palace, she said.
But now, Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, lightly.
Now you see them as yourself.
They boarded the flagship, and the engines hummed as the ship lifted from the ground. The city shrank below them, the palace gleaming like a jewel in the night. Salith watched the streets, the lights, the people moving freely. She realized that all the admiration, the songs, the honors, none of it had mattered until she had been able to choose. Ethan watched her, noting the way her eyes followed the world. For so long she had been a symbol, untouchable and perfect. Now she was human in her curiosity, in her fear, in her wonder. And for the first time, she was also fully herself. The ship jumped into space. Stars stretched into lines, galaxies rushing past. Salith leaned against the viewport, feeling the pull of the cosmos in a way she had never experienced.
It is beautiful,
She whispered.
Ethan stood beside her.
It is, he agreed. And it is even more beautiful because you chose to see it. Salith closed her eyes, letting the hum of the engines and the vastness of space fill her. She thought of her mother, of the Queen's power, of the court that had once ruled her life. And she realized that none of it could hold her now. She was free, truly free. In the weeks that followed, they visited distant worlds. Salith learned about alien cultures, different forms of governance, and the subtle ways life thrived across the galaxy. She met humans in their colonies, seeing her own people from a new perspective. She laughed, argued, and sometimes failed. But each moment belonged entirely to her. Through it all, Ethan remained at her side. Not as a protector, not as a suitor, but as a companion. They spoke openly about choices, about mistakes, about what it meant to live as a free being. Salith discovered that beauty could open doors, but character and courage could open worlds. One evening, as their ship drifted near a luminous nebula, Salith asked quietly, "Do you ever regret speaking out in the throne chamber?" Ethan shook his head. "Never. I knew it was the right thing, and seeing you live as yourself, free, has been more than enough reward." Salith smiled, feeling warmth spread through her. She reached for his hand. "Then, thank you for not choosing me. For letting me choose myself." Ethan took her hand gently, holding it, but not leading. "You chose me anyway," he said softly. Salith looked out at the stars again.
No, I chose the path.
You simply walked beside me. The Queen's lessons and the Empire's traditions faded in memory, replaced by this new truth. Humanity's greatest gift was the respect for choice.
And the galaxy would never forget it. They continued to travel, encountering civilizations that had never known humans as equals. Some welcomed them, some challenged them. But everywhere they went, the story spread. A human had refused a princess, Not out of fear, not out of disrespect, but out of respect for her freedom. That story inspired many, not just in the Varelian Empire, but in countless systems beyond. Time passed, and Salith became more than a princess. She became a legend, not because of beauty or lineage or power, but because she chose herself. And beside her, Ethan became a symbol of humanity's greatest quality: courage, integrity, and respect for freedom. Eventually, they returned to the Varelian home system. The queen greeted them, not as ruler and subject, but as a mother and her daughter. Salith bowed respectfully. "Mother, I have seen much. I have learned much. I am still learning." The queen's eyes softened. "And have you chosen your path?" Salith smiled. "I will always choose it, and others will choose theirs." "That is all any of us can do." Ethan stood beside her, watching the reunion. He had never imagined a world where he could fight with his words and actions without claiming ownership of another being. And now, he had seen it come to life. The empire began to transform slowly. Traditions that had once bound people like chains were questioned. Systems that valued appearances above all else were reconsidered. And at the center of this change was Salith, the princess who refused to be a prize, and the human who respected her enough not to take her. From that day forward, across the galaxy, the story was told: the human who refused a princess, the princess who chose herself, and the power of freedom over fear, desire, or expectation. Salith and Ethan continued their journeys together, not as ruler and envoy, not as conqueror and conquered, not as prize and admirer, but as equals. And in their path, humanity earned a legend that stretched across the stars, reminding everyone who watched that courage, choice, and respect could reshape empires. The stars burned brighter than ever, but the brightest light now came not from suns or engines, but from the bond of freedom, the strength of choice, and the truth that humanity carried wherever it went. And somewhere, deep in space, Salith laughed for the first time, not as a princess, not as a symbol, but as herself. Ethan smiled beside her, knowing that the galaxy would never forget what they had begun together. The journey was not over, but for the first time, they traveled, not because they had to, but because they could. Freedom stretched before them like the endless stars, and in that freedom, they found everything.